Welcome to Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show. This is your host, Eric Cicada, aka Mr. Honest, here to celebrate with you for our 100th episode. I don't know what kind of energy you got going on in your house right now, but mine is hype, okay? I've been talking about this episode. I've been hinting towards it. I do have a special guest. You've probably seen it in the title, but I'll get to him in one quick second. I just want to thank anyone and everyone who has listened to this podcast over the last few years. We are going to do a 4-year anniversary episode on January 15th, in which we will most likely cover Avengers Endgame. So we'll get all the anniversaries out of the way, and I have a lot of plans going forward, but this episode is entirely, uniquely, and 100% special to me. And thank you so much to Ryan Arey of ScreenCrush to give me the opportunity to not only visit my 100th episode, but to talk about my favorite movie of all time with my favorite villain of all time. That is Avengers Infinity War and Thanos. You know I love Thanos. If you listen to the show, you know I'm crazy about him. So if anyone was expecting kind of a beat-by-beat breakdown of Avengers Infinity War, we could have an episode like that in the future. But today, for the sake of this unbelievable surprise, and also listening back to the conversation I had with Ryan Arey, it is awesome. And he knows so much. He's a very cool guy. I say it later, but I'll tell you right now, if you haven't watched ScreenCrush and you're a fan of Marvel, their after shows on YouTube are phenomenal. You're going to walk out like a Marvel genius. So with that being said, I don't want to take up too much room. This is episode 100 of Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show. The goal is to double our catalog by this time next year. I think we can do it. What about you? Also, this episode will be the only episode this week. This episode is too important to not get its own feature at the top of the list, and it gives me some time to prep. I got some great ideas for our holiday season, and I think you're going to love it. But in the meantime, here is me talking to Ryan Arey about Avengers Infinity War, more specifically, the big bad, Thanos. I love watching you on ScreenCrush. It's my favorite after show, and
oh, thanks, man.
I swear to God, I can't believe I'm talking to you right now. Like, my friend who comes on the show, TJ, he like religiously after every Marvel thing, he watches you guys too.
Oh, so, thank you.
Telling him I was going to have you on for the 100th episode, like, he flipped out. And so we were kind of very excited about it.
Congratulations on your 100th episode too.
Thank you for that. And thank you for making it like a million times more special. I have a couple of things written down, but if you got anything you want to say, just like, jump on all over it.
Sounds like fun. Long story short, we're doing an Arcane video, and I'm going to have to like check it in a little bit, but hopefully it all lines up. LFG.
All right. LFG. Yes. So, all right. I'm sitting here right now in the virtual world with someone I really like, and who inspires me, whose videos I watch every week after every Marvel thing. You guys hear me talk about ScreenCrush on this show. I somehow got Ryan Arey of ScreenCrush to come talk to me about Thanos in Avengers Infinity War. Ryan, how are you today?
I'm good, Eric. Thanks for having me on. Like I said, congratulations on your 100th episode. That's a big deal.
Thank you so much.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And congratulations on all your success with ScreenCrush. I mean, I know you guys are huge and growing. You got that big Discord server just started.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I'm going to try and get a little more involved in that. I'm a little shy on the, I can outwardly talk on a mic to you, but I'm shy in front of like more people. It's very weird. So we're going to talk about Thanos today. This is the Infinity War episode, but I wanted to pick your brain, hit some like questions about like maybe some what ifs, like the first thing I have, and I know like this has been discussed, but why did Thanos specifically act when he did? What do you think? Like,
why in Infinity War? Like, why did he go and do what he did and all that?
It was so calculated, so fast. It almost seemed like he had like a moment of opportunity he chose. Do you think that?
It's interesting because you look at the whole arc of it. Look, you gotta understand, like when they were writing the Avengers, they did not yet know that the Loki scepter was the Mind Stone. So having Thanos hand over an Infinity Stone to somebody was not real. I mean, you can retcon it. We can headcanon that however we want. So that aside, right? If you look at the events of Age of Ultron, you had the stone basically wreaking havoc on Earth. And I can only
Yes.
assume, I don't even know if Thanos was aware of that, but I think when you look at the arc of events in the MCU, the big change would have been him learning where Vormir was, like
Yes.
where the Soul Stone
Yes.
was. So as soon as he knew that, that's when he knew, like, okay, I can really. And those stones, like, he may have been searching for them for a long time, right? But think about it.
Right. Who knows how long, right?
They didn't know where they people didn't know where they were. Like the
Right.
Power Stones on Morag, the Ether was lost. I mean, in the middle of whatever kind of dark rift it was in for a long time. And I just think the
Right.
reason he waited is because they weren't all available. And then they finally got to a point where you could just hop, skip, and jump to different places. Not only that, but think about how Asgard was destroyed and the Tesseract no longer had a defender.
That was my thought too.
Yeah.
He knew that the Tesseract was takeable. I think the decimation of Xandar that's what Thor refers to it. He decimated Xandar. It's the 1st thing he did to get the Power Stone. I've heard you guys talk a lot about a superhero named Nova. Do you believe in a future storyline we're going to see that attack for that stone on that world from that character's perspective?
Yeah, I think if they ever do develop that Nova project, and also like at Marvel, they have scripts and treatments stacked up to the ceiling on every character you can think of. Like that's just, if
Really?
you read the Joanna Robinson's book about the MCU, yeah, I mean that's how, for instance, with Guardians of the Galaxy, they hired James Gunn and said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And then he picked up Nicole Perlman's draft of Guardians and changed it a lot and stuff too. But
Right.
all of those characters already have drafts and treatments, and I'm positive that Nova, maybe what they have isn't, it didn't speak to any directors. Maybe it's too expensive to put on Disney Plus, but I'm positive that when they start, they're going to open with that sequence because it'd be a
Okay,
great
cool.
way. Think like the opening of Dark Knight. Sorry, not Dark Knight, of
Yes.
Batman versus Superman.
Oh, I
You start
actually,
with that, and you introduce your teenage character. I don't know.
yes.
Maybe if you're going to have Richard Rider be a Xandarian, I probably wouldn't do that. But yeah, I think we'll see
You
that.
know so much more than me, man. I love learning from you. You know more about the comics than me, I think. Or you do your homework a little bit better. I'm still learning on that end. But oh God, would I love to see that? I would love to see
Yeah,
that.
same.
He takes off his armor once he gets the second Infinity Stone. Do you think this is the exact point that he starts to turn into someone like a godly figure in his own mind, or has he kind of had that complex growing? Because we know the difference between 2014 Thanos and 2018 Thanos. They have, well, the 2018 Thanos has a lot more composure, and I mean, to the best of his ability. Do you think he sees himself as like a god, like Loki said, like you'll never be a god? Is that how he sees himself?
Well, that's the theme of Infinity War. And you have to remember, in 2014, he sent his proxy Ronin to go after a stone, but he had the Black Order at that time because we saw that in Endgame.
Right,
So he
right,
and his Black Order, it's pretty clear. Look at him as like, if not a god, then a cult-like figure. But if you look at, I mean,
right.
you go through, you look at Infinity War. The movie has a running theme of obtaining godhood because that's what Thanos is trying to do. Like, I'm not the first person to point this out. The fact that
Right.
there's 6 Infinity Stones and he gathers all 6 and then rests on the 7th day. And there's lots of like biblical and religious imagery.
Right. So
There's,
crazy.
Abraham sacrificing his son on an altar, just like you have to sacrifice to get the Soul Stone. I think we did a
The
video on this a while back.
the tier. You did a video on this. I had to have seen it, and
I think so. We're
I
not
was
the only
looking.
person to touch on this, though. So I don't want to
Of course
make
you're
you think
not.
these
No,
are all
I
my
mean,
ideas. Yeah.
I swear to God, man, I'll be in an episode talking and I'll theorize something. I'll be like, this probably is Screen Crush's theory and Ryan's theory. Like, I admit that I watch you guys so much that I have to credit just in case, because I know I get so much out of you guys. You guys show me like kind of like every episode there's a little bit of history with like what we're learning about the background. I don't know. I feel like I know all my lore from you.
Sorry, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I do want to answer your question. I don't think that Thanos was powered by ego or anything like that. I think Thanos was really just powered by his mission. Because what does he do at the end of Infinity War? He doesn't claim godhood. He doesn't build palaces to himself or altars. He just wants to retire. Like he's basically, he's like there's this model of Christianity called deism, which actually a lot of founding fathers like Thomas Jefferson were deists. And they didn't believe in a God that actively interfered with humanity. They believed in a God that set creation into motion, then sat back and watched his work, because it says in Genesis, God rested on the seventh day. So that's how Thanos sees himself. And there's obviously elements of that from the comics, but in the comics, after Thanos, like basically, it's a long story. Basically, Thanos does snap away half the universe, and the heroes show up, and he realizes that he actually had a psychological thing. His subconscious knew he wasn't worthy of power, so he set up his own means of destruction. So that's when he retires and like builds a scarecrow and farms. That's not really
the stones and quotes.
Yeah, well, he didn't. He didn't in the comics. He didn't destroy the stones. They were Adam Warlock took them. But yeah.
I was wondering, maybe, just a maybe. There's a lot of like in Infinity War, Thanos refers to himself as a good liar when he's talking to Gamora, and then in Endgame, Nebula says, "My father is many things, but a liar is not one of them." Those contradict each other. Now, there were 2 snaps apparently that broke these stones into a million pieces, so you don't know where they are, or he snapped his fingers and sent them to the ends of the universe in different directions, and he just didn't tell them the truth. Do you think there's any weight to that? I know I'm like just basically fan theorying now.
I think if you look at it from a practical standpoint, Marvel would want to move on from the Infinity Stones, so I think they were smashed to atoms. But we've said this in videos a lot. I don't think that you can smash the stones that are physical representations of what they represent. But it's not like when he snapped them away, time stopped and everybody lost their mind. And, like those facets of the universe still exist. And how they say matter can't be created or destroyed. I think that those stones are still out there. They're just atoms. And I think eventually over thousands of years, they would coalesce once again.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. That makes me also ask another question. How old is Thanos? Do you have like any idea? Like, is he
old?
To me, he's old.
I would say centuries old. Based on like, I mean, not in the comics, but like based on what we've seen in the MCU. Like when you look at Titan, he was around when Titan looked.
It does not look like it did in that image with the reality stone.
I would say he's at least 100 years old.
Wow,
easy.
That's crazy. So like. That's up. I mean, that's something they don't even need to talk about, but like that's kind of another reason he's seen a lot more. I mean, we're not talking about reasons why he's gone for the stones. I mean, we know why. In this universe, at least, it's to eliminate half of all life. I don't know how many other Thanoses and how many other multiverses have the same goal, but do you think? And I know you know this because it's implanted in my head. The absolute point in time. The only time it was referenced was in Doctor Strange. What if he lost his heart, not his hands? And we learn about the absolute point in time. Is Thanos in general coming for the stones an absolute point in time, you think?
Well, an absolute point in time doesn't have to happen in every universe, right? It's just for a particular universe. Because Christine dying was an absolute point in time. Yes. We put out a video a while back on ScreenCrush, and I don't remember exactly which video it was. Oh, no, I do remember. It was the Lilia video. Like, what did Lilia see? I think it was that one. Or maybe it was about Tommy. Anyways, I can't remember. It was one of these videos about Agatha All Along.
Oh, don't get me started, though.
That I wrote, yeah.
What a great show.
What I had said was, if you look at why Wanda lost her kids, right? It all goes back to one event, and that's Thanos snapping. And what I thought was interesting is if you naturally follow what we've seen in the MCU, you know that Thanos snapping led to the Avengers time traveling, which led to Variant Loki, taking over for He Who Remains. And we know that He Who Remains set all those plans into motion. And what I pointed out is I don't think we've seen another universe where Thanos got the stones and snapped. I think it's only in the 616, right?
Well, in 818, I think it's 818. Forgive me if I'm wrong. The universe where Doctor Strange was in most of Multiverse of Madness.
Well, they stopped him.
They stopped him with the Book of Ashanti as well. And that means the Infinity Stones are in someone's possession in that world. Or I have the crazy theory of the Iron Man of that universe coming back to the scene of the crime using the time stone or snapping or whatever it is. And he finds out what happened and then they come for our Earth. But like, that's just a complete theory. I'm sorry for throwing theories at you.
No, that's all we can do. I mean, the cool thing about 838 is we just don't know. Like, we don't know when they took the stones that he had gathered, which we don't know if the vision, presumably the vision exists in that universe and has the Mind Stone.
Right.
They could have taken those stones and safeguarded them. I don't think they held on to them like the Illuminati in the comics. I think they would have held their own against Wanda if they had. Although
They
that would have
held
been
them in the comics, the
yeah,
Illuminati.
for a while the Illuminati did, yeah.
So cool, the Illuminati.
The Infinity Stones, like I feel like in the '90s when Jim Starlin was writing them, they had a more cohesive story. But in the past couple decades, it's just kind of been whatever people want to do with them.
Well, there's
Like
that moment. Oh, keep going.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the Living Tribunal made a rule that the stones couldn't work together, and
Really?
I think that was undone. Yeah, I mean they've gone back and forth a lot on it. But point is, so I think that's the only universe where he actually snapped, and if that's the case, it's because of He Who Remains, which then says, well, if that's the case, you can look even further down. Like we've got a video we're working on about how maybe He Who Remains wasn't scared of Kang, he was scared of Doom. And maybe his whole thing was just trying to get out of the cycle where he had to face Doom. I mean, you could retcon this however you want.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to look at what he did and how it set events into motion for Wanda. And you could even say, like, look, if Secret Wars ends with Wanda helping give birth to the multiverse with her powers, maybe that was his real intention all along, was to put her in a place where she lost her kids. Because basically, and I'm sorry to ramble here.
No, please.
I think what it all boils down to is if Lilia, like Lilia, right? Lilia put the sigil on Billy. When she did that, she made sure that Wanda didn't have her kids, which meant, because she would have sensed them, which meant that Multiverse of Madness happened, which meant that the Darkhold was destroyed in every reality. Lilia, I think that means that the real threat here was that she did. The real threat was the Darkhold. And maybe that purged it from Wanda, because otherwise Wanda would have found her kids. She still would have had the Darkhold, and her kids would have been little evil monsters.
Oh my goodness. It had to happen the way it's happening.
I think,
since we're here on Agatha All Along, one question: why didn't they show how she got the Darkhold?
Not important.
Not important.
Doesn't matter. Do it in a different story. Show a flashback. Showing the Midnight Sun. Show a flashback of it.
Love it.
Yeah.
I had to ask you that.
Yeah.
Thanos knows Tony Stark, and I always wondered. Exactly how. I know he killed the Chitauri army, but we see later in the recent season of What If, they're doing the single episode a day thing for season 3. Would you believe that they're doing it again?
I hate that. I hate it
so much. I can barely. But the one where Iron Man is on Sakaar, we see that like the news, like the intergalactic news or whatever it is like giving Iron Man hero status. Like he's the man.
I missed that because I didn't cover those shows. I watched those episodes, but I didn't watch them in depth because I didn't write those videos we did. Yeah,
so quick. The reason I was excited for that one because that was the one that was supposed to be in the first season with Gamora and the Infinity Stone. Crasher.
Oh, but you know what? I'm wrong. I did write that video. It's the only one from season 3. I think I wrote 2 of them out of the 9. And it was my favorite episode of the season. I loved it.
So you're a writer, and you're the host. I didn't.
I used to write every video, and then it just got to be too much. So Colton writes a lot of our videos. We have a couple of freelancers. Brianna McLarty writes a good chunk of them.
I follow.
I haven't written a single Penguin video. Yeah,
it's you who makes me want to watch the Penguin. If ScreenCrush is covering it, I should watch Rings of Power.
It's Rings of Power is okay. I kind of
I'm a big fan.
I kind of wish I like the show. I just wish we hadn't covered it because it didn't really take off. And frankly, I don't know enough about Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, I think, to do the show justice. I did my best, but we had a guy who was going to write those for us, and he wasn't able to for family reasons.
Well, things happen. That's okay.
Yeah.
But
we did our best.
You were going to say high praise about Penguin, weren't you?
Oh, it's an amazing show. Yeah, I've been savoring it. It's nice to not have to rush through it. And we've got Dune coming out soon, Dune Prophecy. I'm curious how that does. I think that'll do about the same as Rings of Power, like as far as fan interest, but it could be a great show.
Wow. Yeah, man, I'm sorry. Like, I know you so well. I'm talking to you like I know you. I hope that's not offending you. I feel like I do from watching your videos, man. And I'm sorry if I'm bringing you back to questions that you've probably gone over and things that I probably have watched. My memory isn't perfect, but I said,
but the people listening to us haven't necessarily seen those. I'm just, mentioning that if I've talked about it in the past, it's not because I don't want to talk about it now.
Do you think Thanos will get his own movie? like an origin movie, or
I don't
just
know. Josh Brolin is apparently still on the Marvel train. I kind of think
yeah.
we'll see him show up as a variant, like a good guy variant or something.
It's
Because
exactly what I wrote.
yeah, he did his voice in What If. So I mean, Brolin's still up for it. He still wants that paycheck.
Crazy about Thanos, man. I love that episode of What
Yeah,
If.
great character.
Star Lord, and King, not Black Panther. Sorry, my words are falling apart.
Yeah, Thanos in the comics too went through a really interesting journey because he started off just power hungry, and then when he achieved ultimate power, he found out it wasn't really enough. So he kind of did this soul searching thing. And then, like in the past couple big crossovers, they've made him right back to where he was. But even then, there's this comic where I don't think it's canon where he wins, he snuffs everything out of existence, and then it's like, well, what now? And
Like
again, it's like it's always a hollow victory for him, you know.
yeah. I mean, the Lady Death being introduced in the MCU, it makes you wonder, is she the same Lady Death that would have courted Thanos? But maybe it had to have been you who also pointed out that Hela is the goddess of death. So like maybe, this does tie into Thanos because I'd wondered maybe there's a story there where Aubrey Plaza brings him back somehow because, we don't know, she has immeasurable power. And they would play out that storyline as a sequel for like Young Avengers.
I doubt it. That's the kind of thing I think they would do after the reboot. Like if it turns out Thanos is alive in the reboot, that would make more sense. I think when it comes to Hela, look, Hela's an alien who people on Earth call death. But she's actually, if you want to look at it in a more literal way, she's a facet of death, not death itself. And death in the comics was not happy when Thanos snapped away half of all life.
Really?
Because she didn't know that. No, he spurned him. And even his relationship with death was always very much like he was in the friend zone the whole time.
I gotta read that.
There's a great comic book actually. There's a Thanos limited series that shows him growing up on Titan, and
that's a fantastic
comic. Oh, it's great. It shows his whole rise to power. You should read that.
Oh man, I totally will. I want to get that app you can get from Marvel where they have all the comics.
Oh, it's great. Marvel Unlimited. Yeah,
you have it.
Yep. Oh, that's what every comic's on.
Is there a ScreenCrush code I could put in there?
No. We've talked to them. They tend to do things on an affiliate basis, which means they don't pay for a sponsorship. They pay if you sign people up, and
okay,
we don't really do those. But no,
got a lot of great sponsorships.
Thanks, man. Yeah, DC's app is also pretty good, but their problem is they charge you extra. You don't just get everything. You have to pay for their Ultra membership.
Come on, DC.
I know. I was trying to read Creature Commandos, and they wanted an extra amount, and I'm like, well, just why?
I'm sure
Creature Commandos. Are you serious?
There's probably people like you who want to read more. They got to take it out of that extra tier. If you're paying, you should get everything.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything Warner Brothers though.
Quick fire questions. Did
go for it.
Did the collector survive?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's out there somewhere.
Yeah, I think so.
Rebuilding the collection. Do you think we'll ever?
He probably had it in the comics. He has more than one collection. He didn't just have one in nowhere. Really? So he's probably with his other stuff. Yeah.
Do you think he has?
But then again, he ran nowhere. He didn't just live there though. So maybe not.
Okay, because we've seen. I'm going back to the same episode that we were talking about of What If the T'Challa becomes Star-Lord.
Mm-hmm.
The collector is like a kind of a really great gnarly bad guy. I like to see him as the main villain where he has a little more power. Since they did that in What If, though, I don't know if they'd do something like that in live action.
Honestly, probably not. I mean, it really just depends on if a creator comes along and says, "Yeah, I have this idea for doing this with this character," and there's such a larger canon of Marvel cosmic baddies that they could draw from, but Collector and his brother the Grandmaster are two of the best for sure.
Okay, I love that they're brothers, and I want to see them together, and that's why he's alive.
They also used to both have Infinity Stones. That was a long story. That's how Thanos went around and got the 6 stones from. So it's a comic book 2-issue called the Thanos Quest, I think.
Oh man.
It shows how he got the Infinity Stones, and it's pretty good. It's not bad. It's got some good stuff in it.
I'm sorry for being such a noob and don't know all that source material. I mean,
it's okay. A lot of people don't know the comics. It's. I mean, I just grew up with them, so that's for me. The thrill of the MCU has always been I get to see this on the comics on screen.
You're so genuine, and you give me like so much hype. Like I swear to God, you're the first thing I'm looking for when I get home. I'm like, oh my God, what's he gonna say about Deadpool and Wolverine? You know, and like, was I the only one who
Yeah.
liked this or
And
that?
I'll give you a hot take on Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't know if I've
Okay,
ever actually said this on the channel. I don't think
okay.
it's that good.
You
Eh.
said it.
No, but it's fine. It's a fun movie. It's a fun like Marvel Cinematic Universe Wolverine and Deadpool movie, but it's not a
Yeah,
good movie. Like you never actually understand
you
why
don't.
he's trying to join the Avengers, other than it works as a meta commentary, but when you hold it up to any kind of scrutiny as a character piece, it makes no sense.
Yeah, you're right, dude. These are the things that I can only like admit through you. Like you're so right, man. It could have
But it's
been.
fun,
It
but
was a.
it's you got two invincible guys stabbing each other. Who cares? There's no stakes.
It reminds me of what Scorsese said about the Marvel films being all amusement park rides. Okay, that one was a
Well,
little bit of an amusement park ride.
well,
Okay,
there's nothing wrong with a film being like an amusement park ride, and I'll do love and respect to Scorsese, but as soon as he figures out how to make a movie that's not about a white guy, he can come and talk to me. Like a lot of his movies are the same. Not that he would need to
yes.
come talk to me. He's the greatest director drawing breath outside of Steven Spielberg.
So
So
much confliction. Like I love. I'm like,
yeah,
bring a Goodfellas movie to the MCU. I'm sure there's somebody
yeah, right.
like a type of Goodfellas in
Yeah.
the outer rims of the universe with Sylvester Stallone. I'm sure he's got a base in the comics. I don't know. I don't know much about that character he plays. I wouldn't hate to see him again. Um, did Thanos expect to have to sacrifice Gamora? Is that why he brought her? I wrote.
I don't think so. I
Me neither.
personally don't think so. I think I would be really surprised if that was the case.
He had to bring her for her to lead him too. It's not that she just tell her
Yeah.
where it is, but and leaning on that, who the heck hired Red Skull? You know what I mean? Like,
What do you mean hired him?
yeah, like, look, how does he get this job of guarding the soul stone and being the person to tell and also knowing the names of their parents and like, there's gotta be some more story behind that maybe it's left better like hidden, so we don't have to know all the answers. But I
Well,
mean,
I
it's
mean, the Tesseract, like when you try to use the Tesseract, it's almost like a cursed object that took him away, and the stones are all linked together, like they all
right.
speak to each other. And so I think that's what it was. I think the Tesseract was like, that's how I looked at it. It's almost like the arc at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark opening up and cursing people who try to use it or abuse it.
I see.
That was always my take on it. I don't know if they ever thought it through that much.
My biggest regret in life, and I'm embarrassed to tell you, but I haven't seen the Indiana Jones movies.
Oh, you should. They're great.
So I'm not proud of this.
I don't think there's a bad Indiana Jones movie. I like all five.
I I don't mean to keep jumping topics, but I really want to like talk a lot with you in the short time we have. And, um, you know, in my email to you, I wanted to say like Thanos, the protagonist, how he's a protagonist. And I think there's a big difference in, I need to say, because people are like, why does he like this like evil guy so much? I'm like, there's a difference between being a hero and thinking you're justified what you're doing and you're a hero for that. Like he thinks he's a hero. He thinks he's saving the universe. He literally genuinely does. And I think that's why he draws in so many people like me who are just like, I just love that full on commitment. And to see him toss around our Avengers who we've been hanging out with for the last 10 years, it's just mind bending. I still watched it to this very day. I've seen that movie. It's my favorite movie of all time. I just love Infinity War. And it's not like I hate seeing our heroes get hurt. But Spider-Man in Tony's arms, I mean, that was a big moment, I think that was a special moment. I think Infinity War is like the center nucleus of almost everything going forward and behind it. I hope they do similar things on Doomsday. It's good to know that Joan Anthony Russo are there. Do you have any? I'm kind of leading us into a different category of conversation. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Do you think that they're gonna pull off the Doomsday? I'm just gonna ask you that. I got Ryan here. You're like the genie. You're here. I only have so much time.
I'm not sold on Doom being played by Robert Downey Jr. and being a variant, but that's because I'm a comic fan. Because I always look at things like I want to see Doctor Doom from the comics. It probably makes sense with what they're doing. These guys know what they're doing. You know, there's no team out there who can make a Marvel movie better who isn't canceled. So yeah.
Ooh, I'm gonna give a little sign.
Or working for another studio. Yeah.
We can't fail. Doomsday can't fail. We need it to work.
I don't know if it does. Then one thing I've learned over the years is that there's always another one. There's always another movie. There's always another reboot. There's always like if you don't like this version of Spider-Man, the Doctor Doom, that's okay because there's another one coming. So I don't get too wrapped up about that sort of thing anymore. There's real world things that are. I love to see a good Batman movie. I love to see a good Spider-Man movie. But if we don't get them, the next one will be better.
Absolutely. Like the demand for Spider-Man 3 and Spider-Man 4, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. People want all of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. And if you get all of it, you wouldn't like it. Like it's fan service almost never pays off. You just need to get good people in place and who know what they're doing.
Absolutely. Well, let me leave you with one more question about Infinity War. Do you remember the first time you saw it at all? Like your feelings about it?
Oh my God, yeah. I figured it was that year. I don't think I was. I wasn't watching screenings yet. That was my first critic screening was Venom.
Oh, cool.
So which was later that year. So I saw it on opening weekend, and I remember I kind of expected the snap to happen just because it happens in the comic. Like you don't really get the Infinity Gauntlet together and not have him snap his fingers. I did think it would be the other half. I thought it would be the young people who died. I thought it would be the older Avengers who died, and then the younger guys would take the mantle. So I was surprised by that. I remember in the theater. I remember the shock because you just don't see that. Mark, you're used to seeing the good guys win, and they gave us The Empire Strikes Back. And then my family was visiting, and I took my mother-in-law to see it. That was really fun.
Infinity War.
I got to see and I got to see her reaction and my wife's reaction, and just kind of enjoy it like that. Yeah.
Oh man, is it fun to re-experience it with people who are just getting started?
It's the best. Yeah.
I love sharing that with people. I love Marvel so much. You're part of Marvel to me, Ryan. I gotta say,
I appreciate that, Eric. Thank you.
I can't praise you any higher. I don't want you to feel weird, but I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I actually really want to thank you.
Yes, you most definitely are. Thank you.
Jeez, man. Thank you for doing this. From the bottom of my heart, it made my year.
Thank you for doing this. We need more people like you out there making a fun celebratory podcast that the rest of us can listen to. I really appreciate it.
You are a gentleman and a saint. I will say the great Ryan Arey, ladies and gentlemen. Go watch ScreenCrush. If you're not subscribed to ScreenCrush on YouTube, you're missing out. Be like me and watch them after every Marvel thing, and then come listen to this if you want. But
thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Wow, just seriously, wow. I mean, I have been watching ScreenCrush for a great couple of years. It's almost like literally like meeting a celebrity. He is in my mind. I respect him so much with everything he does, everything he puts up. It's inspirational. And if you're not watching ScreenCrush, like I said earlier, you're missing out. This has been Eric Cicada and Ryan Arey through and to Doomsday, Secret Wars, and beyond. Thank you to everyone who made it possible to let me make my show. And I'm so thankful to be in the mix of it again. Thank you again to Ryan Arey for showing up as an episode 100 guest. And even though I'm a little repetitive, I am that thankful. I can't even put into words how thankful I am. And that was a really fun conversation. So let's see. Hopefully, let's make some bigger episodes. Let's get bigger. Let's have Ryan Arey back on one of these days, maybe for the 200th episode or something like that. If he'll ever grace us with his presence again, or if he doesn't feel like it, because he's in control of his life, man. He's an independent man. I'm sorry, Ryan. Anyways, this has been a big episode, and there's more to come. Remember, we will be celebrating the 4-year anniversary of the podcast, January 15th, with Avengers Endgame, with guests. Ryan Arey, no. We're not gonna ask him so soon. Okay, I'm gonna go call him. Just kidding. Let's talk next time. Until then, I hope you have the best Thanksgiving ever. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, just have a wonderful weekend. Happy Thanksgiving to my fellow you Thanksgivingers. Eat that turkey, get that rest, enjoy the holiday, enjoy your family, take it all in. You are all my heroes. Don't forget that below or in the description of your episode, we have a listener feedback. We'd love to hear what you think about the episode, your theories and your thoughts. Anything constructive is amazing, and we'd love to hear you. It might be featured on the show. And we also have a tip jar in there. Don't feel obligated, but always appreciated. Thank you very much. Until next time, Avengers, disassemble.